Hey Freedom Lovers, this is Dr. Peterson Pierre with America's Frontline Doctors bringing you today's Daily Dose. So the main justification for gender-affirming care for minors in the U.S. has been that, quote, all major U.S. medical associations support it, end quote. Critics of this supposed consensus have argued that it's not grounded in high-quality research or decades of honest and robust deliberation among clinicians with differing viewpoints and experiences. Instead, it's the result of a small number of ideologically driven doctor association members in LGBT-focused communities who exploit their colleagues' trust. Physicians presenting different viewpoints are silenced or kept away from decision-making circles, ensuring the appearance of unanimity. As the UK's CAS review pointed out, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, known as WPATH, and the US Endocrine Society were especially important in forging this consensus, and they did so by citing each other's statements rather than conducting a scientific appraisal of the evidence. The circularity of this approach, says Cass in her report to England's National Health Service, quote, may explain why there has been an apparent consensus on key areas of practice despite the evidence being poor, end quote. Perhaps because it has never really depended on evidence, this doctor group consensus has shown remarkable resilience in the face of major system shocks, including several whistleblowers, revelations from court documents that WPATH manipulated scientific evidence reviews, the CAS review, a bipartisan commitment in the UK to roll back pediatric medical transition, and a growing international call for a developmentally informed approach that prioritizes psychotherapy over hormones and surgeries. But the US consensus now appears to have its first big fracture. In July, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, a major medical association representing 11,000 members and over 90% of the field in the US and Canada, said that, quote, it has not endorsed any organization's practice recommendations for the treatment of adolescents with gender dysphoria, end quote. ASPS acknowledged that there is, quote, considerable uncertainty as to the long-term efficacy for the use of chest and genital surgical interventions, and that the existing evidence base is viewed as low quality, low certainty, end quote. Calling the evidence for youth gender transition low quality is not, as some gender clinicians say, quote, a scary buzzword, end quote, intended to confuse non-experts. No. In evidence-based medicine, low-quality evidence means something very specific, that the true effect of an intervention is likely to be markedly different from the results reported in studies. As one expert in evidence-based medicine put it, low quality, quote, doesn't just mean something esoteric about study design. It means there's uncertainty about whether the long-term benefits outweigh the harms, end quote. As evidence for those harms, which include infertility, sexual dysfunction, and the agony of regret, to name a few, continues to mount and ethical concerns get harder to ignore, European countries are increasingly prioritizing, as they should, psychotherapy and reclassifying endocrine and surgical approaches as they should, experimental. Ladies and gentlemen, only the truth will set you free. Stay tuned for the next Daily Dose.